The misterminology does not affect the hearing notice, and we'll open it up to public comments.
Are you telling us that we're here because we thought this was going to be public and now you're telling us it's not?
Come on up and we can address that.
You want me to repeat that, or?
Yeah, we'll need your name and address, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mike Marconi, S37W27560, Windsong Ridge, Town of Waukesha. Now, we received a notice saying they want to go public. Now you're telling us that's not correct?
Yeah, that is not correct. They are still going to remain a private course. The public-private terminology was screwed up. So they are remaining a private course, merely changing hands.
So what's the conditional use permit for?
Anytime that there is going to be a change of ownership, the conditional use, in the liquor license is included in that.
Okay, so as far as I'm being public and having conditions for that,
Go ahead.
that's not happening.
It is not going to be a public course.
For your information, all of the land that the golf course controls is not zoned identically. Recently, in the last 10 years or so, they acquired the large tract of land where they have the driving range. That portion of the course, unlike the course itself, is zoned residential. And in order to permit that to continue as such, there needs to be a conditional use permit. When the notice was sent out, the details of the zoning had not been confirmed, the underlying zoning. And so the decision was made to err on the side of giving as much notice as possible to anyone who potentially could be impacted, including referencing public activities. So at this time, there needs to be consideration by the Plan Commission and by the board ultimately with regards to a portion of the whole course as to any limitations that would be applicable to the driving range.
Are you saying that the parcel that they bought from Jerry Barton is residential other than the driving range? Is that what you're saying?
I do not know who they bought it from, but
Jerry
that
Barton, it
whole
was his
tract,
farm.
which I believe is about 50 acres, is residential.
Okay, so all the news reports that we've seen and articles in the paper about this going public, those reporters got it all wrong, or they were given wrong information?
They can only answer for themselves. We can't answer for them. However, if you take a step back and look at the situation, you have a number of people here. You have been made aware of the fact that there is a transfer taking place. And in that sense, maximum notice was given.
Right, but it's a big difference between public and private.
It is remaining private.
Okay,
No, there's no question about that.
then I probably wouldn't have come here had I known that. I mean, it's, if it's gonna stay private, nothing is changing, right, other than the permits for the liquor and so on.
That's accurate.
So we don't have to worry about some public thing going up and back that's gonna create a lot of noise and detriment to the surrounding area.
I spoke with the new owner today. His comments were, nothing's changing. The only thing that's going to change is perhaps a more professionally run golf course and banquet facility.
Okay, so if they do change anything in the part that's zoned residential, there will have to be another meeting like this, right?
Yes. Mr. Flanagan?
Well, I've been a member for 40 years. I don't, your concern, I guess, it's still a golf course. If the use isn't changing.
Well, it's still a golf course, but you're talking about the possibility of them putting buildings back there for public use that.
Nobody's talking about the building.
No, but when we read that it was going public, then they may have the chance to do anything they wanted and cause a more volume of people, more noise, and changing the continuity of the neighborhood.
Well, I guess I don't understand. It's a golf course, it's got 18 holes and a driving range. whether, who owns it, doesn't enter into it. It's still a golf course, the use doesn't change. And if we had to build a building, we would have to come here to get permission to build a building.
Right,
So,
right.
I-
But see, when we were under the impression it was going public. And that
Well-
opens up another whole can of worms as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I guess public or private, it's a play for fee golf course, whether it's public or
Yeah,
private.
but it's also, what was included in that was the buildings with the halls and all that. How did we know that you weren't gonna be putting up more buildings with more halls that you would rent or whatever?
Well, I think you're projecting a use in the golf course, really. We have a building that we rent to people that have weddings and
Right,
bar
right.
mitzvahs and whatever.
The bottom line is it's remaining
Yeah.
private. It's
Right.
not, it is not a public
Right.
course.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I'll be here for the next meeting when it goes public.
Thank you.
I'm not the reporter, don't just believe everything you read every time you read something.
Well, it just, there was in fact like 5 articles.
I didn't appreciate it either.
Jack, would you like to speak to me?
I'm happy to answer any questions or speak. My name's Jack Gaudian. I live at 118 Legend Way in Wales, which is at the Legend of Brandybrook. I built that club, I started that club, I own that club. We are incredibly honored to have the opportunity to own Merrill Hills, and the entire purpose of coming here was simply to transfer the liquor license. We were informed that we had to go through the conditional use process as part of that. How that got from there to a lot of folks, God bless you for being here. We're just trying to own the club, run it right, and keep it what it is, and just make it better. So, if anybody has any concern about it going public, I'm not your owner. I own 3 private clubs. I'm trying to make this a bigger private club. That's what we're trying to do.
Jack, we had one resident send in a number of questions, and I'd like to go through those with you.
Sure.
To the best of your ability, if you could shed some light on it. First one is any part of the new liquor license application new or different from Merrill Hills Country Club? And I think that the simple answer is, and I got that from Jamie already, the answer is no. The next one is regarding the beverage cart. What plans do you have for collecting discarded bottles, cans, bags, and other trash from items carried to the golf course or sold on the golf course via a beverage cart?
There's trash receptacles all around the golf course, so not only does the beverage cart have trash receptacles, but there are around the golf course, and those are collected. We do recycle. Again, I don't own it yet, but I can look at how they do it now and how we do it at other clubs. We don't see any problem with that.
And that's actually the next question is, do you collect your recyclables? And you mentioned recyclable already.
Absolutely.
Okay. The next question refers to public-private course. It remains private. I think we've gotten that down. And what changes do you anticipate making in day-to-day operations? And the questions are parking, traffic, activity, fireworks. I'll let you go ahead.
First off, it's our intention actually to have fewer golf members than currently exist. So we don't anticipate a need for additional parking, a growth or expansion of anything that's there. We intend to operate it with what we have. We intend to improve those facilities. There's some, some repair and maintenance that needs to be done to the facilities they have. I understand the club has a traditional 4th of July fireworks. I don't know a lot about it. We don't do those normally at my other clubs, but we want to carry on the traditions that exist at that club. We're not looking to expand things that would need an approval for. It's a private club, we'd like to retain that club's integrity and its traditions. And so we're really not looking to expand, we're just looking to perhaps use our experience of success at other facilities and apply it to this one to ensure its long-term viability.
The next 2 questions, I doubt that you're going to have information on. Do you know what the septic tank capacity is?
I don't, but my golf course superintendent does.
Okay. And then the next question was pumping of septic. I assume it happens whenever it needs to.
That's correct.
I did meet with your superintendent today, and the next question would apply to him. What herbicides and chemical treatments are applied to fairways and when? How much? And will neighbors be notified? And the simple short answer is that he would be happy to convey that to anybody that asked. He is a licensed applicator, as is his assistant, for any chemicals that they use. Additionally, there are a couple of things on the golf course that require MSDS sheets. Those are filed with the state of Wisconsin. The next question I did ask him also, would you be trimming trees, bushes, undergrowth along property lines, any clearing? And the answer was a simple no. Plans for invasive eradication control of things like buckthorn, garlic, mustard. Answer is the same as what's been going on now. Will you consider a rezone of the practice range to P1 as the rest of Merrill Hills Country Club?
Quite honestly, we're just trying to own it. And it's not about development for us. We understand that the parcel's in 2 tax codes. We understand that one parcel is zoned residential. That's not the reason we're buying it.
Okay.
We're buying it to run a private club.
Any new fencing plan?
No.
Okay. And then the last one is, I spent a fair amount of time with your superintendent. He had a great deal of knowledge about the golf course with regards to stormwater runoff and specifically the Barton Farm Field, which was referred to a few moments ago. My understanding of that is that there was no regrading, that the topography of the golf course or the practice range actually is as it has always been. The only thing that was changed is a retention pond that was put in. That retention pond had overflowed, the DNR and county had been out, and they constructed a pump that pumps from the retention pond into woods that are to the south. And that's a pump that's about a 2,000 gallon per hour pump, and it runs whenever the water fills up. And that was a step that was taken to try and alleviate some of the runoff that would hit the properties to the east. That's about it for those questions.
It's good education for me. I knew nothing about any of that.
Sure, go ahead.
Is that all you have for me?
No, there's a couple, sorry.
Trying to sneak out.
This is all from Lori Longtime and
Sure.
Steve Schmucke from West 271, South 3581 Oak Knoll Drive in Waukesha. We understand that the Legends at Merrill Hills has applied for a conditional use permit to be discussed and potentially approved at the June 13th meeting. We also understand that the sale of Merrill Hills Country Club and the Legends is to close tomorrow. Tuesday. As property owners whose property abuts the Legends at Merrill Hills for about 200 feet, we have several concerns and questions, which was in this attachment that you just spoke to Chairman Merrick on. Of primary concern is whether the intent of Legends at Merrill Hills is to operate as a public or private facility, and that was also clarified by Chairman Merrick. And she states, the agenda states conditional use to allow public commercial golf course, public banquet, and related facilities. The application says private golf course. It isn't clear what exactly is being applied for, and the implications of each are quite different. How can the Plan Commission or Town Board can approve a cup without written records that match? In either case, the request hasn't been properly noticed to the public, as a documented record references both. Of the 33 pages in the packet included 29 pages of cup application and 3 pages of liquor tobacco license application. Only 4 are focused on the plan of operation. There are many questions in which Chairman Merrick, it says attached in here, reviewed with you. We have and assume others may have that weren't asked of Legends at Merrill Hills in the application. As plan commissioners and town board officials, you may have difficulty approving this request until these and other questions are answered. She states that she is aware that Roger Dubler is unable to attend this meeting, and for these reasons, she respectfully requests that you table this item on both plan commission and town board agendas. And that is all of her comments. And Mr. Schmucke. Yes. And then there's one more. This one is from Robert and Darlene Hartman, South 30, West 27210 Sunset Drive in Waukesha. To the Town Board of Waukesha and the Town Clerk. We own property at South 30, West 27210 South Sunset Drive in Waukesha and have no objection to Merrill Hills Country Club going public if they assume responsibility for damages, etc., caused by players. Our family has owned property for over 90 years, so we are concerned for now and the future. We have had our front window broke by a golf ball, and we're lucky to have been at home and chased down the player who submitted it to his insurance company. We have had dents in our vehicles, which are caused by golf balls coming across Sunset Drive into our yard. Our concern is also that a golf ball could hit a car on Sunset Drive, causing a serious accident. The club must assume responsibility for damages caused by people who golf. If it goes public, there will be additional golfers, and Merrill Hills Golf Course must be responsible for those who play and cause damage to other people's property. Sincerely, Robert and Joey.
The Attorney DeLamora, would you take a moment and just address the notice and the public and the private issue, the verbiage of that?
There is no legal defect, as you've indicated, from our perspective. The whole point of giving public notice is to have maximum awareness that a change is taking place, and that has occurred.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on the Merrill Hills issue?
Dave Critter, W275 S3216 Vernell Drive. Been a neighbor of Merrill Hills for 25 years. Ironically, I wasn't going to come tonight, but when I got home from work and turned on the US Open, the music from Merrill Hills was so loud, I couldn't hear. I had to close my windows in my house just so I could listen to the TV and talk to my wife. So when I heard it was going public, I was concerned that I don't mind an event here or there up at Merrill Hills, it's fine. And as long as they keep it under control and the music is not so deafening that I can't listen to the TV on my own porch, on my own house. And honestly, I wasn't gonna come tonight until that happened, because they've always been a good neighbor and they've always kept it under control. So I don't know if there's something different tonight or what, but it prompted me to come here and talk to you guys. So while I'm on the subject, there's a few other things that disturb me about being a neighbor with Merrill Hills. And I want to know if some of these practices will continue. And one is the fogging of mosquitoes between their property and my property. They take out a big fogging fan machine that goes down our property lines, and whatever it is they're spraying, some insecticide, is floating over into my property. I have to close all my windows. I can't, when we had children, we didn't let them outside the house. And they still do that today. Not every day, but 3-4 times a year. And all this crap comes into my backyard, and I don't think they're supposed to be doing that myself. So I don't know so I would like to know if that's gonna continue or gonna change. My other concern, what really annoys me, is whatever contract they have with their dumpster guys, those guys show up at 4 a.m. in the morning, between 4 and 5 a.m. in the morning, and I'm waking every day. They show up by the beep, beep, beep of their trucks and the slamming of the dumpsters. At 4 o'clock in the morning, it's like it's in your bedroom. And I would like to, since it is a commercial, even though private now still, they should change their schedule so that they're not disturbing their neighbors at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I can handle lawnmowers at 6:30 in the morning, that's no big deal, even 6 a.m., but the dang dumpsters going off at 4 in the morning is really annoying. And then the last thing I want to address is, on the northwest corner of that property is a dump. And there's old barrels in there, and there's old farm implements, and a bunch of old wood that they throw in there. And I don't think dumps are legal anymore. And I think that needs to be addressed with either the town, the DNR, or whoever's in charge of regulating that kind of stuff. For all I know, they've been dumping herbicides and pesticides in there for decades. And, that's my groundwater I'm sharing with those people, with Merrill Hills. And I think that certainly needs to be investigated to see what kind of hazard is going on in that corner of that property.
I'm watching Jack feverishly
I
white
can
right
speak
now.
to that one. Part of the closing procedure is an environmental study being done on the property right now.
Okay.
Trust me, I don't want it if I've got a dump on it either.
I understand that, yeah.
That'll be the reason I don't buy it, if I've got a big dump in there that I don't want,
So
so
if you're closing next Tuesday, hasn't it been done?
they're on the property right now
Yeah.
doing
They're on the
it.
property right
Yeah,
now?
I'm sorry.
The other side of that is the fellows that are the applicators of that, they're licensed by the state of Wisconsin to do that. And as the superintendent of that property, if he was to do that, he'd lose his license, number one. Number two, it's probably a criminal thing to be disposing of hazardous
I
chemicals in that
understand that,
fashion.
but this dump's been there forever. So what's down below that before it was professional licensed contractor, we had all those rules. You know, there weren't any rules, 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
And again, part of a phase one environmental, if it's part of a phase one environmental, if that inspector finds something they believe needs to be tested, I used to buy and sell golf courses for a living before I'm just doing my own now. That's what they do, they take you to another level, then you test, then if you find something, then there's more tests. So if there's something there,
So how do we know, how do we get the results of that?
That's nothing, that's a private matter between.
Private matter.
Yeah.
but there is, maybe the first time
Even though
in
it
84
concerns
years.
my- Even though it concerns my groundwater?
Well, but this is the first time in 84 years someone's done a phase one environmental. So I would say that we're probably going further than has been done in 84 years right now.
Sure.
And so,
Okay, so say there's a problem there, and Jack doesn't want to buy the property, who's gonna take care of the problem?
That would be up to the Merrill Hills Golf Course at that point.
And who's gonna follow through with that? The town?
That's a DNR issue. If there's.
no, actually, again, as part of the phase one environmental, if they find a problem, there's a reporting requirement of that problem, then the state jumps in. There's no hiding it.
Okay.
And so there's required reporting at certain levels of, let's say they tested a well and found a slug of something in the well. Even if they're not using the well, they're required to then do further tests. If the well wasn't capped and it's not even being used, it doesn't matter.
Right, okay.
And so I think the concerns you have are very valid concerns.
So once it's in process, it's going to the end, is what you're saying?
History will tell you, though, that golf courses are the best filter there is for groundwater.
Yeah.
Because of the way pesticides are applied, because of the natural filtering process, it's the best possible filter for your groundwater. Doesn't take into consideration somebody dumping something they shouldn't.
Right.
I'm just as concerned about that as you are. I don't want to inherit somebody else's problem.
I can understand
And
that.
so I think we're on the same page, but I will also tell you that environmental person, that matters, and they're doing a physical inspection of the club. That is a condition of the closing. So that's about a 3-day process. They've been going through it this week.
Okay. Can you get them to change the dumpster schedule?
That's easy. I can go to 6 a.m. That's the first I've heard of it. So that's the beauty of these meetings. The things I can try to address to be a good neighbor, that's easy. 6 a.m. is not hard.
Yeah. Well, we like living there, and it's a nice, it's nice for us. And
We want to be good neighbors. I'm the guy you call.
okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Evening. No, I'm kidding.
South 37.
I'm sorry.
Michelle Severson.
Thank you.
South 37, West 27570 Windsong Ridge in Waukesha. I also have property that abuts the far end of Merrill Hills, and we've lived there for 26 years. What I have a question for Jack or even Merrill Hills is that initially that property on the far south end was owned by the farmer, and it was tilled and used as corn farming. When he sold that property, my understanding is that land was rezoned so that Merrill Hills could use it for its golf course. And the understanding was that they were to keep that land and that property without overgrowth until they decided what they wanted to do, whether they were gonna create a hole or a putting. They really weren't sure what they were gonna do, but it was gonna be used as part of the golf course. Since that time, it has become so overgrown that you have trees now growing on that back property. And some of the older trees have gotten to a point where they are encroaching onto our property, private property. And there's some hazards with it because of the trees that can fall and have been falling. Fortunately, some of them have gone into the other side of the old farmer fence. But we have some now that also overshadow our new outbuildings and our property. And I have a concern for damage happening because a lot of these trees are considerably older. It is the old original farm property. So my question would be, now that we understand this is going to stay private and not public, if they have any intention to do anything further with that land, to put it back under control and not just leave it grow as wild overgrowth.
I'm going to tell you, I'm at a loss. I don't even know I'm sorry, you know the land much better than I do. And so the perimeters, I don't have a great feel for. Typically not in the business of landscaping for folks, but if we're talking about hazardous conditions, we just need to sit down, you and I and our superintendent. We're going through a big process there of tree removal and trimming, and we can certainly address areas that, if we're talking about health concerns or something that's falling on your property, we should be able to get that addressed.
A lot of it is a safety concern, but then there's also the aesthetics.
The area is highly populated with a lot of natural wildlife. You've got the turkeys and the fox and the deer and the coyotes. And the coyotes have come to make that property now pretty much a lot of their tromping ground. I don't have a problem with that at all. What I do have a problem with is now so much of the overgrowth is not just twigs and overbrush.
Sure.
It's now turning into trees and shrub and the
Buckthorn
buckthorn and a lot of the unsightly things where that was supposed to be kept within check and nobody ever really, held their feet to the fire and had that done.
I guess I don't have the information of how it was supposed to be or any of that. So that's probably an issue. If you give Jack and the superintendent a call, I'm sure that they'd be happy to address that.
Exactly. Why don't we just walk the property together and see what's possible?
That sounds real good, thank you.
Great, you bet.
Thank you. Anybody else on Merrill Hills?
I do. Lori Barton, S37W27336, Genesee Road, Town of Waukesha. This is the adjoining land south of Merrill Hills, was my parents' land. And when my dad sold it to Merrill Hills originally, he had it in stipulation that it was just going to stay not for residential use. He wanted it strictly as a golf course, and that's what he's hoping it stays at. And we understand about the overgrowth of the trees and everything, but my dad personally loves the overgrowth of the trees. But I understand along with the subdivision. And the thing about there wasn't any grading on the land, there was a lot of grading when the putting range and the driving range were developed, because I've lived there all my life. Excuse me, so I know it was never as flat as what it is now. And also about the dumping ground, when the subdivision went in next to us, we did have a lot of people dumping their stuff on our land. So if there's anything dumped on the land, it wasn't from my father, on the farm. It was from our neighbors in the subdivision who decided to use our land as their dumping ground. And they also took down our fences, and they also used our land as like a dog park, which, and this is before it was sold for the golf course, which did not thrill my family any, but my dad sold it hoping that it would just stay as a golf course. He does not want to see condos or big houses built there, and hopefully it never does get developed like that, because he wanted to keep it, as natural as possible. So we're just hoping it stays in the golf course, even though it is zoned residential, and I know it's a concern of a lot of our neighbors that, they can see it getting developed and ripped apart and everything. And we do like to keep it the way it is. So hopefully it just stays a golf course, so we only have to see people 6 months a year. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on Merrill Hills? Then I move to adjourn the public hearings. Can we just close it?
Yep.
Or we'll just close it.